Hi, I'm John with Orange Modworks, and this video is going to be an early look at our core Retaliator and Recon Mark II hybrid system. Just a heads up, this kit does not come with the 12 kg spring due to its destructive nature, but it does come with our 7 kg spring that many of you are familiar with. More on the spring choices later, but so moving right on ahead, the front of the barrel is compatible with all the standard barrel attachments. I like to run this little Recon Mark II barrel up here just to protect the prototype, but it's compatible with every barrel we tried. And so on the inside, we have some things that look familiar and some pretty significant changes. So right off the bat, expanded plunger tube. This is a aluminum plunger tube, full straight walls. It's the largest tube we could fit in without having to cut the shell anyway. You'll see it's butted right up against those support structures, and it does not move once the shell's closed. Nothing holds it in. It's up, well, it's held in by being pinched between the catch and the support structures underneath here. I'll show you guys in a minute. So the familiar parts, the bolt sled, metal trigger, and metal trigger catch, are the same as from previous kits because this is a Retaliator. Those are the parts you need to run a Retaliator reliably. The breech is going to be kind of similar, but the internal and external dimensions are a little different than the Stage 2 breech. It's not quite as tight as the Stage 2 breech. So let me get these out of the way. Oh, the kit will come with a metal trigger for both the Recon and, the Retaliator and the Recon Mark II. This kit's fully compatible with both blasters. Moving on, the first major change is the Plunger Rod. The plunger head has to be larger to accommodate the larger plunger body. It uses the same O-ring, it's just stretched to form a perfect seal, and the same bearing surface, all that kind of thing, but it's a larger plunger head. This is a CNC prototype. The final one will most likely be black POM like the other Retaliator kit. And so moving on to the plunger body. This is a open-ended aluminum plunger body. It has a breech adapter up in the front that's held in place by an O-ring. And this is the part that rests against the shell, with the aluminum resting against this part here, so you don't have metal sort of like grinding into the front of your shell. It's roughly 26% larger than the stock plunger body. It doesn't have a taper. That dimension was taken by just measuring the entire plunger body on both and drawing them up real quick and taking a volume measurement. So it's I didn't like use a graduated cylinder to measure the internal volume, but that's roughly what I came up with. So we're just calling it 26%. And this is a 3D printed component right here. The final one will also be black POM for that impact resistance. We get some pretty screaming velocities out of this plunger tube. So now getting to where things take a drastic turn, you'll notice that the entire dart tooth assembly, that spring-loaded piece here and the dart door that pushes darts into the breech, it's gone. You have to take all that out to install this kit. And getting right up into it, what makes this a hybrid kit is that it's sort of a cross between a sleeper breech and a pusher breech. The dart is not pushed forward into the barrel, and it's not entirely pushed into the breech. You'll notice there's no dart loading mechanism. So there's a detent in the barrel that grabs the dart and pushes it like most of the way into the breech, but some of it is going to be up in the front. So without separating these two pieces, you'll see there's the seam here where the breech overlaps into the chamber. Now, that's not a perfect seal. There's no way that could be 100% perfect. It's pretty close. If you dry fire with your finger up here, it's safe to do that. Your plunger won't come slamming into your blaster because there's enough of a seal to slow it down. But as you all know, darts have a hole down through the center of them. When they're pressurized, the dart body expands slightly. So when you fire this system, that dart body expands and completely seals off this area. So for the duration that the dart is traveling from like here to here, it's fully sealed. And then once that seal is broken, it still continues to accelerate down the barrel because we have this excessively large plunger body, which can provide all the air pressure this system needs to fire the dart. And it keeps accelerating, and then it's gone. We've tested a variety of different barrel lengths, and we've settled on this right here. You know, we started with a super long one, and we just cut it down as we shot it over the Crony. So, chronograph data, you'll sort of have to take it with a grain of salt right now because these are all printed components. Final ones should have tighter tolerances, so we're expecting better performance, lower friction, that kind of thing. This printed material is kind of generates a lot of friction with the darts. You know, it's not nice and smooth like the POM that the final kit will be made out of. You know, POM has a much higher lubricity. So Crony data real quick. We've taken, this is just a kind of a handful of the data I've taken, but from the older ones we're looking at with the 12 kg spring, we're hitting some with long darts like 165 average with this test, 183 average with short darts. And as we progress down the data, as we cut the barrel down and tweak the inside dimensions, we get some higher velocity readings. So we have a lot here. 193.9 is the highest one on this column. We have a bunch of shots in the 180s, 170s, that kind of thing. So the highest velocity I have measured out of this system with a long dart was 199 feet per second. With a short dart, it was 198 feet per second. You know, it's right up in there. The performance with short and long darts is similar, simply because, you know, the short darts are lighter, so you'd think they go faster, but the short dart doesn't provide as long of a bearing surface to complete this seal. But, you know, it's sort of, you have to give that up if you want a system that will feed both and shoot both basically on equal grounds. So, cracking this open, we have, this breech is very similar to the Stage 2 breech. It has a lip here that interfaces with the back of this chamber. It's been slight, you know, just minor tweaks up in the front so it interfaces better there. It is looser on the inside, and the tightening surface has been moved back a little bit. We also reduced the amount of material up in here, so it sort of tapers down because the dart can only go this far. We didn't want any vacuum loading issues, and that's where we wanted the dart to stop being pushed into the breech. So setting that aside, the barrel up here, this is compatible with your stock barrels of all kinds. Excuse me. I like to run this up here because we have this exposed thin portion here and it just protects it, but you know, it's not necessary. This is in two pieces. We had to get creative with this assembly because the inner detent that pushes that dart back was not moldable. You can't inject, there's a lot of things you can't do in injection molding, and in order to get this part made we had to split it like this. So this is our just barrel adapter. It's essentially a non-functional part. It just holds this barrel in place and gives you something to attach your stock barrels to. This is where the magic happens. We get the seal between these two components. Not a perfect seal, but a very good seal. Like I said, you can safely dry fire your blaster with your thumb plugging that up. And so, okay, so now on to the springs. So this system, we all know that Orange Modworks parts in the Retaliator just, they don't break. You know, this bolt sled, I don't think we've had a single break that from stress. You know, people put crazy springs in these things. These bolt sleds can take it all. This system can handle it. The breech isn't going to break. Plunger Rod is, you know, solid POM. It's not going anywhere. So now we run into the problem with this system with the overload. Spring starts to put the weak point onto the shell, which is less than ideal but if you want maximum velocities, that's what you have to deal with. So we have a lot of stress being put here on the shell. If you run the 7 kg spring, you can run this kit all day, just indefinitely. You're not going to do any damage. The mechanism absorbs enough impact. Now the overload spring, we have seen cases where stress marks were put on these shells, but it does seem to depend on the type of Retaliator. If you look at this one and note where everything is being supported up in here, there's a lot of surface past this white little bit here. From here to there, it's pretty well reinforced. So I've noticed that some of the Retaliators with the white shells are weaker up in the front. So, you know, it's going to be up to you to either reinforce this or just be very careful with your blaster if you choose to run the overload spring. Apparently not all shells are created equal. The one that I did manage to wear out was we had basically one Retaliator that we've been testing all of our kits on for the past couple of years, and that thing was just so thrashed. We managed to wear these out, so time will tell. I don't have a lot of test data on this particular area because it's just something that's never broken until we broke the one blaster that we've been beating on for forever. So that is a quick look at the hybrid kit. It is a full internal set that really, in my opinion, pushes the Retaliator into sort of new territory as far as non-permanent mods go. I could take all the stock parts and put them back in this blaster and they'd work perfectly. No modifications to the shell. So if you have if you only have one blaster and you want to play indoors and outdoors, this is a good option. With the 7 kg spring, most of the time, like take all these velocity readings with a grain of salt, but I have hit over 150 feet per second with the 7 kg spring, but they're usually lower than that. So if that's the limit for your game type, 7 kg with this system, you should be okay. Now, if you're doing mostly outdoors or there's no velocity limits, or you're using particularly heavy darts, by all means go with the 12. With heavier aftermarket darts and the 12 kg spring, it's both fast and accurate. What can I say? But that's up to who you're playing with. I don't know if not a lot of people want to get nailed repeatedly with something shooting 190 feet per second indoors. So that is the hybrid kit, and I will have some crony footage with these printed parts, but as I said, take them with a grain of salt. We'll do the best we can showing you how this thing functions, and when we have prototype production parts, we'll revisit this video in a more official capacity and go over it in greater detail. Okay, here we are at the chronograph with the same set of printed parts. We're going to start with the 7 kilogram spring, and before we get started, I want to show you. You can see the dart being pushed forward by the breech, and it runs into that detent, and the dart will stay still as the breech closes over it. So it's halfway up into the barrel, and then halfway in the breech. Okay, so first shot, 143.6. Let's get it. 131.6. 142.3. 162.1. 136.6. You'll notice it's a pretty quiet system with the 7 kilogram spring. So I'm going to swap it out to the 12, and we'll come back to the Crony and shoot a couple more shots. Alright, here we are with the 12 kilogram spring, and hopefully we'll get more than one shot out of this. 172.9, and that is a bear to prime. 168.5. 194. You just hear that hit really hard. 187.5. 193.4. Remember, these are full-length stock darts at these velocities. 156.8. Alright, there you have it. Take these readings with a grain of salt. Keep in mind that these are all 3D printed prototypes, but the final version should have similar performance, but this is still sort of an unofficial first look. Okay, so being a hybrid breech, this can handle short darts as well, so we're doing it again with the 12 kilogram spring and short stock darts. .138, 166.3, 182.4, 154. Let me let up a couple more. That first shot actually double fed. So 2 more shots. 180.4, 150.1. So the short darts have kind of erratic velocities because they don't have quite the same amount of seal in the barrel. This system relies on the length of the dart to fully seal the system. So, but it will run the short darts just as well as the full-length stock darts.